franktalks.com.
This program does not represent the views of this station and may be considered offensive to some listeners. This program may contain mature subject matter, including frank discussions of controversial topics. It is intended for mature, open-minded audiences. Discretion is highly advised. This program is entirely independently produced by and is copyrighted by Frank. It is broadcast here under license.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank, because I have to be. We've got a wonderful show for you today. In studio, we have a lovely person, Linda, the Sexy Hypnotist. Welcome to Frank Talks, Linda.
Thank you, Frank.
And without further ado, I'm going to read this little introduction here about Linda, the Sexy Hypnotist. Linda is a trained hypnotherapist and certified NLP Master Practitioner who specializes in hypnotic transformations. Just like in stage hypnosis shows where a volunteer might be told, at the count of 3 you'll be Madonna, her clients get transformed. A typical client would be a male who wants to hallucinate his body feels and looks just like Britney Spears. As in the movie Total Recall, the client would then live out an adventure in an all-natural form of virtual reality, transformed into a woman. Linda will explain how hypnosis can produce such incredible experiences, and you can find out more at her website, which is http://adult.hypnoticwishes.com. Is that about right, Linda?
That's exactly right.
Yay! All right, let's start, and in typical fashion, we're going to ask you a little bit about your past. Where were you born, and anything about your upbringing as it relates to our topic at hand, which is hypnotic transformations.
I was born in Montreal, and I went to school first in French, then in English. I was in my high school newspaper team for the high school paper. I did theater in high school. I really like to show off. I like to perform, singing or all that kind of thing. Then I studied science in CEGEP, and I went to Concordia, first in psychology, because I really find people's minds interesting, and I want to be able to help them as well. Now, what happened is I took a year and realized that, according to my psychology teacher from there, the effectiveness of different therapy methods depended more on the client's belief than on the actual content of the method. So as long as you believed whatever your therapist was doing and the person was reasonably competent, then you got the change you want. So I figured, well, if people believe in shamanism, I could just get myself a rattle and save myself 7 years of study. So I went into computer science instead.
And given that you have an interest, though, in therapy, you're an NLP practitioner, you're a hypnotic therapist, why stop psychology?
Because it didn't seem to be very effective. I found, by luck, looking for hypnosis, a cure for phobias on the net, an NLP technique. And this NLP technique I tried on my father, who had a fear of flying, and hey, it took 10 minutes to do, and it worked. So I went to study NLP and hypnosis.
Now, for the benefit of our listeners who may not be familiar with NLP, can you tell us exactly what NLP stands for, and what is NLP?
NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is using language to change your neurology, or your thinking. So if people are into any kind of therapy system, it's a cognitive behavioral system. That means how you think and how you act. That's what it focuses on. And it's a short-term therapy system which produces changes basically in, 3, 4, up to 6 sessions. You wouldn't go 10 years into NLP, for therapy. Just a couple of sessions and you solve that one problem, and then you solve this other problem. But as I said, for phobias, that's 10 minutes.
So from there, is that when you started to get really involved in the study of NLP and hypnosis?
Well, first I needed money to take schooling in NLP. I got a job as a computer science teacher in a technical college for about 4 years. And that was fun. I like working with computers. I like working with people. And I'm a real ham. So I just loved being a teacher. I would come in every morning, and there was a captive audience for all my bad jokes. And then I would start warping their minds by explaining to them, we're going to learn binary today, and by the end of the day, you're going to come home and tell your family that 1 + 1 = 10. And they're going to be so confused. So I just love warping young minds.
Yes, I can definitely see that from this conversation.
It was fun. And that gave me the money to take some schooling in NLP and hypnosis.
Where did you study that, and how long did that training take?
The trainings are done in weekend intensives. And I took my basic training in Montreal, and I took master level training in the US.
How long was that?
We're talking about 20 or so days of training per level. So it's a fairly short training, but it's actually very expensive. And it actually works very, very well.
Now let's turn this over a little bit more towards your business. Tell me about the day-to-day routine that you're in as an NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist.
Well, first, we have to end the teacher part, which is when I wasn't able to pay my rent, and I told my boss to, well, find someone else, and started my own business. Now, what I do in my business, basically it's based on a website. So people find my website usually by doing a search on Google, and they come to my website. They look around. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of text, a couple of images to make it pretty, but mostly it's text. Nothing really fancy, just a lot of interesting things to read. And because I have a lot of text, search engines like me. So a lot of people come and visit, find what they like, and email me and ask for a session, ask for CDs, hypnosis CDs, and that's how it starts.
What can you tell me about the type of work you do? You do have a specialty.
Right.
In hypnotic transformations. What can you tell me specifically about hypnotic transformations and why you've chosen this as your core?
Well, the main reason is I find hypnotizing women to be really sexy. I mean, if you're attracted to women, who hasn't thought that it would be nice to be able to just hypnotize a beautiful woman into doing everything you want?
You know, this sounds almost a little scary here. Have you ever had any, resistance from this sort of thing?
Not that they can remember. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble. So this is going to be the last show that we do here on this station.
No, actually, I can't have anyone do anything that they don't want to do. No matter how deep in trance you are, you can always accept or reject a given suggestion. If you accept it, you tend to go deeper into trance. If you reject it, you tend to come up out of trance. So this is a fun fantasy. And there's, the erotic mind control story archive on the net that has all kinds of fun fantasies about that. But I can only actually hypnotize someone who wants to be.
What about the argument, or maybe the misconception, that would probably be a better word, that people lose control when they go into some form of hypnosis? Isn't that the fear of giving up control when being hypnotized?
Well, if you use no drugs, no alcohol, and you don't sleep deprive yourself, then that's a reasonable concern. But people use all kinds of substances and methods to lose control all the time. So, yes, under hypnosis, you will be somewhat more influenceable. But so will you be if you've had a few drinks. Like, your inhibitions are going to be lower. That doesn't mean you can be made to do anything. It just means you can be talked into doing something you already want to do.
So there already has to be a capacity there for action, is what you're saying.
Right.
And in the absence of that capacity, no form of hypnosis will convince anybody to do anything?
Well, you can sort of motivate people to do things, but only if the motivation is really, really good. Like, you can get people to do a lot of things for $1 million.
That's right.
And I can get people to do a lot of things because they know that I'm going to use a word that's going to feel them an incredible orgasm every time I say that word. And so they're going to want to do what I tell them to do because they're going to get that reward. So I can do it that way, but if they just say no, then there's nothing I can do. It's just motivation.
So getting back to our earlier question as to why you decided to work on hypnotic transformations.
Ah, yes. Well, I used to hypnotize women on the net. There are actually groups of people who do this on the net where there are some hypnotists and there are some subjects. People who really like to be hypnotized and people who really like to hypnotize others. And so I would hypnotize women because it's fun. And these would be people who are willing. Now, as it happens on the net very often, they would often misrepresent themselves. And these would be guys pretending to be women. Because they knew that I would only hypnotize women. So, at one point, I discovered that one of my girls was not a girl. At first I was upset, but then I realized that it doesn't really matter, because I was just as excited. I had just as much fun. So the premise on which I do my work is, I'm turned on by hypnotizing women. I really enjoy it. But this is only in my head. As long as I imagine them as women, it doesn't really matter. So I hypnotize men into believing they're women, and then we have fun.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and in studio we have the lovely Linda, the Sexy Hypnotist.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book, Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book, I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
Guys, does your bachelor pad look as frightening as an Elvis convention? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do you own a twin bed and still love your Star Wars sheets? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Is the only source of artificial light in your bachelor pad the bare, dusty bulb hanging from the ceiling? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do your friends walk into your apartment and think you have been robbed? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do you think that minimalist means barren as the Gobi Desert? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. If your bathroom is home to a colony of anything, then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. The Pimping Your Pad seminar and telephone consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank, because I have to be. We're back in studio with Linda, the Sexy Hypnotist, and we're going to be talking to her a little bit more about her business. Welcome back, Linda.
Thank you very much, Frank.
All right, let's turn the attention here to some statistics, specifically about your clients, your success rate with them. Anything about your clients that you can tell us? What are the majority of your clients? What categories do they fall into?
There's a whole lot of different kinds of people. Because my services are relatively expensive, it has to be people who can afford it. So I tend to get more older folks, but I occasionally get some kids in college. I've got clients that are 55 years old. Actually, I have a few of them. And in their case, no amount of makeup is going to make them look like an 18-year-old pinup. But in hypnosis, they can hallucinate that they are whoever they want to be. I've got a lot of 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, different professions. I've got doctors, lawyers, factory workers, college students, as I mentioned, mechanics, all kinds. As far as statistics, the only statistics I've compiled are those of how fast do I get them the result they want. So after one session, 84% I've gotten to the point where they can really go very deeply into trance to the point of forgetting their body and being completely just out there, just unaware of anything other than my voice. After 4 sessions, that goes up to 98%.
Can you talk us through what you would do with somebody in that first session, the first time someone contacts you through your website?
Well, the first session, assuming it's a phone session, we would chat a bit online using Yahoo, ICQ, something like that. And then they would call me, and they would recline usually in bed or couch, and we would start the induction. Now, the main goal for me, since I'm doing transformations rather than therapy, at least that's what we're talking about. I also have a therapy site. But for the fun stuff, the main goal is to get them to forget their physical body, to have it just go completely numb and just forget about it, so that they're kind of just floating, kind of disembodied as awareness, and feeling really good. Then I give them a trance trigger, so that they can return into trance very quickly and very easily every time, so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time every session bringing them back into trance. Each session is normally an hour. Now, generally, that's all we do in the first session. Sometimes we have time to do a little bit more. But generally, at the second session, we would do the training triggers, which are to feel certain emotions, certain reactions, sexual pleasure, which is useful if you're going to be doing any kind of sensual adventure, so that they can feel these things and it feels real to them. And around the third or fourth session, that's when we start their actual request, whatever fantasy they have.
Can you give us examples of the types of fantasies that we're talking about?
Okay. A typical example would be someone who is really smart, probably a boss, let's say an engineer, computer engineer. And what they really want to do to relax is to be a beach bunny. A blonde, big-breasted beach bunny. And so their fantasy is going to be being on the beach, taken in the sun, and flirting, and doing other things that I may not be able to mention on air.
Let's talk a little bit about some of these clients of yours. Prior to getting on the show, we had a little conversation, and you were telling me that some of these clients are married, may have children, and yet there's this part of their lives that they can't really share with their families or their social circles. And how do you help facilitate those fantasies?
Well, as much as possible, I encourage them to talk to their partner. It's really, really important. And I'm quite concerned that people get married with other people who don't feel comfortable about their sexuality. So you end up with two very frustrated people. And this is not a great place to be raising kids, because nobody's happy. So I go, well, if you knew that you need to cross-dress, that you really need to, at least once a month, if not more, then why did you marry a woman who can't tolerate it? And usually the answer is, well, I thought I could stop because I love her. And as far as I know, nobody actually ever stops. They go through purges where they throw away hundreds of dollars of expensive lingerie and really great dresses and high heels, and it just breaks my heart for them to be wasting all this good stuff. And then a couple of months later, they start buying it all again because they felt guilty, they gave it all up. That's another thing that I do on the therapeutic side, is help people get rid of guilt and accept themselves. But back to being with their spouse, I encourage them to talk to them. I give them ideas for starting to talk with them and getting them involved. Sometimes the spouse doesn't really want to hear anything about it, and not much I can do. So what I do is I give them fantasies, which make the rest of their life tolerable.
What kind of advice could you give, let's say, a young male listener who maybe is a cross-dresser, maybe is thinking that he wants to go through a sex change from starting as a man, becoming a woman? What kind of advice can you give a person like that based on your hypnotic transformations?
Well, it's hard to say, because really what I do is I grant wishes. That's why my website is called Hypnotic Wishes. So I'm not there to make the wishes. People come to me and they say, this is what I want. And I'm the magician. I'm the sorceress. I'm the one who makes it happen. So if someone's a cross-dresser and they're happy with that, then I'd say, okay, well, I can enhance your cross-dressing. I can make it, whenever you put on this necklace of yours, you're going to feel like you have, 36C breasts. And you can look in the mirror, and then you're going to, but only when you're wearing the collar. Excuse me, necklace.
Oh, I'm going to lose this show. We got to take another break, only here on Frank Talks, Pleasures, and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquest, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and telephone consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. Guys, do you think that your father has a great sense of style? Are blue jeans and a clean t-shirt your idea of dressy? Then you need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. Does 1982 live in your closet? Do you own clothes that have more holes in them than a slice of Swiss cheese? Then you need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. Look at the contents of your closet. If you think that navy blue and dark green are your colorful clothes, then you need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. When you pick up your date for that night out on the town, does she cringe at your wardrobe? If you think that ladies might wonder if you're colorblind, or if your girlfriend has to remind you to wear a clean item of clothing, then you definitely need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. The Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar and telephone consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures, and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank because I have to be. We're going into the third part of our interview with the lovely Linda, the Sexy Hypnotist, here in studio. Welcome back, Linda.
Thank you very much, Frank.
All right. So many things I want to ask you. We're running out of time. Let's start off by asking a question. We were talking about this over the break. If somebody wanted to get into hypnotism to become a hypnotist, specifically an erotic hypnotist, what is something that you can tell us and advise these people?
Well, if it's a woman, they can do pretty much whatever they want. People tend to feel more comfortable with women, more safe, to open up about their emotions, their past. So for hypnotherapy, it's great. If it's for erotic hypnosis, it's great. If it's for stage hypnosis, there are very, very few stage hypnotists as women. And so the few that there are in high demand. Now, if it's a man, you can be a hypnotherapist. Not a problem. You can be a stage hypnotist. Most stage hypnotists are guys. Not a problem. You can't really be an erotic hypnotist.
Why?
Because you're not going to get any clients. Now, I'm assuming here a straight male. If you're a gay male, then that's not a problem. Then you will get gay male clients. Lots of them. There's a good demand for that. But if you're a straight male and you're hoping to hypnotize straight women, then that's not going to happen.
Now, you've learned this through experience in your own practice, is that right?
Yes.
How many of your current clientele would be women?
Oh, I specifically advertise towards women. I try really hard to make all my hypnosis CDs usable both by genetic males who want to feel like women and by women. But maybe 1%, 2% maximum. I would starve if I relied on women.
Why do you think that is? What's the cultural angle here?
Because men know they have to pay for sex or anything sexual. Women never pay. It's just not in the culture. Women in the Western world, I don't know about the rest of the world, but at least the Western world, expect to be paid in one way or another for anything sexual. And so they are completely unwilling to ever pay for anything sexual. Oh, they pay for makeup. But if it's sex or anything like that, no, it just doesn't work.
Let's turn the attention of this interview into a little bit of a different direction. I'd really like to talk about some of the obstacles you've had to endure and a lot of the sacrifices you've had to make in order to live the lifestyle you do as an erotic hypnotherapist.
Well, let's see. I get to work at home at whatever hours I want, which means that I'm basically working from noon till about 9 p.m. is my, open hours for doing sessions. Because I'm a bit of a night owl, I'm making 3 or 4 times more money than as a teacher. I can take vacation time anytime I want. That's really tough.
Yeah, I
all the sacrifices.
I totally feel for you.
Thank you, Frank. That means a lot coming from you.
Yeah, I totally just have all this super sympathy here for what a horrible lifestyle you have. Taking a vacation, taking a vacation whenever you want, working whatever hours you want, working from home, having no boss. Boy,
my boss but she's a real, I'm not sure I can say the word here.
You probably can't, and I prefer if you don't. You're already going to get me in trouble with the program director here,
Right, right. So, as a real slave driver. Anyway, now, the thing with being your own boss is, of course, money doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. So, if I don't start a project, nobody's going to tell me. Well, my dad sometimes bugs me. But he says, work more, make more money. I go, yeah. The point is to enjoy life, not to, slave away. So I do work, and I have to discipline myself to do my work. But basically, I'm getting paid to have fun. This is my hobby. I'm getting paid to do my hobby by mostly really fun people who are spending their play money with me because they want to have fun too. So it's pretty good. The only thing is, I spend most of my time at a computer, chatting with people, answering lots and lots of email. If there's one thing I really have too much of, it's email. I spend far more time answering email than I ever do doing sessions. And I eventually get cabin fever if I spend too long at the computer. I just, got to get into town on the weekend, see some people. It's like, oh man, real people, not just icons on the net.
This is actually an interesting paradox here, or very ironic at the very least. You like working with people, you end up going into computer science. And right now it seems that your passion is connecting with people, but you're working primarily on a computer.
Right. Well, I like computers and I like people. When I was in school, I was with people working on computers. Then I was teaching, so I was working with people about computers. Now I'm working on computers for people. So for me, it's pretty much all the same. I like computers and people, and it all works out.
Now let's talk about some of the products that you sell on your website, and if you'd like to give your website address, feel free.
Certainly. My website address is http://adult.hypnoticwishes.com. Now, if you type www, you're going to end up on my therapy site, which is cool, but does not have nearly as much interesting content. If you want the fun stuff, the fantasy, then that's on the adult domain, so adult.hypnoticwishes.com. I'm up to 14 CDs at this point, where you can just order them by credit card online, or send me a money order, and have them shipped in a plain envelope, and do your stuff, like CD 11, which is the corset diet, which gets you to feel sexy, feel like your waist is getting narrower whenever you go to eat food, and then you feel sexier choosing not to eat. So all my CDs are fun. Some are somewhat therapeutic. I have one for people for smoking, who feel guilty about smoking mostly. And I have this one for dieting. But there's lots of purely therapeutic ones. Mine are all fun and sexy in one way or another, and mostly angled to be either for women or for men wanting to be more like women. In the case of the corset diet one, it could actually be used by both genders.
What would you recommend to someone, let's say a straight male who's not looking to be feminized, but would still be interested in buying a product from you?
Well, my first CD is Trance Training, and all it does is it gets you very deeply into trance. It's very relaxing, and you sleep better. Now, I do this in two ways. I advertise towards men who want to be more feminine, women who want to be more sexy, and if guys want to help their girlfriends or wives to be less inhibited or more sexy, CD5 Gemini is about everyone has a good side, kind of, conventional, and a more, bad girl kind of side. And so that CD is for bringing the bad girl side, whether you're a male or a woman. Either way. I've had some women use my third CD, Elegance, which is for wanting to basically be a bit more girly, want to put makeup and do your hair and make yourself look attractive. So, some people who like to cross-dress but feel guilty about it, what they do is they use this kind of CD to go, oh, well, I can't help it. The hypnotist controls me, and I can't resist wearing makeup. And so it takes away the guilt factor.
Do you think that actually that might be considered an obstacle or maybe a problem? The fact that sometimes people will try to displace blame onto you as their hypnotist for something that they may already be wanting to do, as we have discussed earlier in this interview.
Oh yeah, I think they do that a lot, because I really can't influence someone unless their unconscious agrees to it. I really can't. Because the unconscious is what lets it happen, makes the magic happen. I have some people who come onto my site and they say, oh, I was straight before and now I'm looking at guys all funny. And it's all your fault and your site. And I go, okay, why did you come to my site and why do you keep reading my site if you're completely and utterly straight? Well, there's a lot more bisexuality than people care to admit.
In your opinion, what percentage of people would you say are bisexual?
Well, as I understand, the Kinsey report was stating that there was something like 10% of the population that was completely gay. My understanding is that the same report considered 10% of the population completely straight. Which means that the remaining 80% are bisexual to some degree. And so, if society demanded that everyone must be gay, then, again, 90% would be able to pass for gay. And 10% would pass for straight. Well, wouldn't pass. They would be those terribly, what's the word? Against God or whatever. Straight people, how could they?
And do you find that through your practice and through the people that you're meeting that these results are being mirrored?
Mirrored.
Well, are these...
Oh, yes, indeed. My experience is you take a straight guy, you have him perceive himself completely to be a attractive female, and the result is that they will behave like most attractive females do. Well, actually, no. They'll probably be more, having been a male, more sex inclined than most attractive females are. But otherwise, they'll be attracted to women, to men, pretty much bisexual. Because there's a lot less stigma if you're a woman to being bisexual. Whereas if you're a man, it's a big no-no.
It's about that time. We're coming to the end of our session. Linda, it was absolutely fantastic having you in studio. Very educational, and it's wonderful the way that you can totally share so much information.
Oh, it was great being here on Frank Pleasures.
Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks Pleasures. Okay. I just love playing with word. It's my craft. What can I say? And I pun a lot too.
Yeah, you're just getting me back for screwing up your name earlier in this show. But
would I do that?
Yeah. I know you so well. We're running out of time. We've spent so much time with our lovely guest. So let's start with our lovely guest, the lovely Linda, the Sexy Hypnotist. Thank you so much for being a part of Frank Talks this week.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Now, just before we go, would you like to give your website address one more time?
Certainly. For all you ladies who want your man to be helping with the house chores, you might consider visiting http://adult.hypnoticwishes.com. And wouldn't he look cute in that little apron, especially while you're relaxing?
Linda, I gotta say, we love you here at Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. Especially Zoltan, who's totally lost composure. Another first for Frank Talks. Zoltan has never totally lost it like he's losing it now. Okay, let's go on with the rest of the thank you. So thank you very much, Linda. Zoltan, thank you very much to Zoltan King, who works the tech board and my right-hand man on this show. Good night, everybody. It's been great.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book, Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with a little help from Frank Talks. best rate going around. Yes, we're certain, just read the reviews.
Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's got goods.
Good love can soon come to you.